Shane van Gisbergen walked out of a NASCAR trailer at Chicagoland with a story he didn't expect to be telling. Not about the wreck, not about the caution flag, about a meeting that got strange fast and a driver who apparently wasn't ready to let it go. What started as another chapter in one of the sport's most heated modern rivalries just turned into something colder, something more personal. And if you've been following the tension between Van Gisbergen and Austin Hill all season, what happened next inside that room might be the moment this feud stops being about bumpers and starts being about something else entirely. Sunday's Aero 400 gave fans exactly the kind of chaos this rivalry has become known for. Van Gisbergen made contact with Hill in a high-speed corner, sending the RCR driver spinning hard into the outside wall. It looked like just another racing incident, the kind NASCAR sees every week. But Hill didn't see it that way. Under caution, he found his moment and returned the favor, making sure Van Gisbergen knew exactly how he felt about what had just happened. Two competitors, two very different versions of the same lap, and a tension that had clearly been building long before Chicagoland ever started. Then came the meeting. NASCAR pulls drivers in after incidents like this all the time, usually a formality, a chance to hash things out, shake hands, move forward. That's not what Van Gisbergen walked away describing. Speaking afterward, he called the whole exchange an odd dynamic that ended in an even stranger way. According to Van Gisbergen, he sees this as the point where two competitors sort it out and move on, something he believes has always made the sport work. But not everyone in that room saw it the same way. Van Gisbergen suggested Hill isn't the type to let something go until he's gotten the final word, the final hit, whatever settles it in his own mind. And that's when things reportedly took a turn, with Hill allegedly making it clear this wasn't over. In Van Gisbergen's own words, he was threatened with retaliation. Think about that for a second. This isn't a shouting match caught on a hot mic during a caution lap. This is a formal, moderated NASCAR meeting, the kind of environment built specifically to defuse tension, not escalate it, and by Van Gisbergen's account, it ended with an implied promise of more to come. Van Gisbergen made his own position pretty clear. He knows where he stands, and where he stands is done. He wants to move past it. But he was also blunt about the fact that Hill, in his view, is operating on a different timeline, chasing his own resolution, whatever that looks like. If this were an isolated incident, maybe you shrug it off as one bad race, one heated exchange, tempers flaring under pressure. But this is not new. This is Chapter 3, maybe 4, depending on how you're counting, in a rivalry that's been building since last year. And every single time, Van Gisbergen has ended up on the receiving end of a lot of scrutiny, even when the facts get complicated. Rewind to Sonoma. Van Gisbergen, the road course ringer everyone in the field respects and half of them fear, was right in the mix for the win. Then Austin Hill missed a corner. Not intentionally, at least not by any evidence anyone has produced, but the result was still the same. A multi-car wreck, Van Gisbergen's day compromised, and a road course result that should have been one of his best of the year turned into wreckage. That one stung. And it clearly stuck with people around the sport because when Chicagoland happened, Richard Childress, Hill's own team owner, came out and framed the whole thing as Van Gisbergen settling a score. Payback, in his mind, plain and simple. But here's where it gets interesting, because not everyone bought that narrative, including one of the most respected voices in the entire garage. Dale Earnhardt Jr. weighed in on the situation, and his take was refreshingly measured. He pointed out how easy it is to pin blame on Van Gisbergen without actually having the evidence to back it up. It's a fair point, and honestly, it's one NASCAR itself ended up echoing just days later. Because here's the thing that a lot of the outrage online conveniently skipped past. NASCAR looked at this, not casually, not with a quick glance at a replay, but thoroughly. Cup Series managing director Brad Moran addressed the incident directly in an interview, laying out exactly how the sanctioning body reviews these situations. He described a process that pulls in telemetry data, radio communication, footage from every available angle, and full race data before anyone makes a call on intent. And after going through all of it, NASCAR simply didn't find enough to prove the contact was intentional. No penalty for Van Gisbergen. No penalty for Hill. Officially, in the eyes of the people with access to every data point from that race, this was just hard racing. That should have been the end of it. Officially, it kind of was. But unofficially, inside that meeting room, something clearly wasn't settled, at least according to Van Gisbergen's account of how it ended. And if you zoom out even further, this rivalry has deeper roots than most fans probably remember. Go back to Pocono earlier this year. Hill forced a 3-wide situation heading into Turn 3, and the results were brutal for a handful of drivers chasing playoff points, Van Gisbergen among them. Josh Berry got caught up in it. So did Joey Logano. One aggressive move, multiple contenders with damaged days, and Van Gisbergen right in the middle of it once again. But if you really want the origin story, you have to go all the way back to 2024, the O'Reilly race at the Circuit of the Americas. This is where it all started. Hill shoved Van Gisbergen wide during that race, and Van Gisbergen didn't let it slide. He used his bumper to send Hill around in Turn 15. Both of their days were essentially over after that exchange, and while the two of them were busy settling their own private battle, Kyle Larson quietly cruised to the win. Neither of them walked away with anything except a rivalry that was just getting started. So, when you line all of this up, Circuit of the Americas in 2024, Pocono earlier this season, Sonoma, and now Chicagoland, this isn't some sudden flare-up between two hot-headed drivers having a bad week. This is a rivalry with real history, real consequences, and now apparently real personal tension that's spilling out of the car and into the meeting room. NASCAR can review the telemetry all at once. It can clear both drivers of intent every single time. But data doesn't measure what happens when two competitors are standing across from each other after the checkered flag. And by Van Gisbergen's own account, whatever happened in that room went beyond just settling a race. Van Gisbergen says he's ready to move on. He's made that about as clear as he can. The real question now is whether Austin Hill feels the same way, or whether this rivalry is about to write its next chapter a lot sooner than anyone expects. Because if there's one thing this entire saga has proven since 2024, it's that these two drivers have a way of finding each other on track, whether either of them plans it or not.